Andrew. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for your feedback on the previous one. I actually wanted to go ahead and discuss with you regarding the understanding of the previous file and go ahead with it because I spent nearly about 1.5 days for that because we had lots and lots of calculations and everything in them. Yeah, so but I understand that you don't prefer that way. Probably I can edit that, but I was thinking like, okay, so let's go with the user form method because that's the correct way to do it at the moment, because given the scenarios that you're asking. So I thought we'll have another alternative for this. Let's see if this works out without the user form. But this took the entire day, like since the morning that we spoke. So in here, I'm hoping that this will have a better solution to what you have requested. So let's start with this. So to start with, the upper part in here remains the kind of same. This one gives you the overall pictures. To start with, the time spent per patient hours that comes up in here. So that's coming up to 2. So basically this 2 is like, needs to be common for both. Only then we'll have a comparison. If not, we can't now compare an apple with an orange, given the number of different hours. So obviously you'll have more complexity to be added to that one. The quality issues also may come in at the doctor's level, so they may have some sort of a stimulations on that one. So I've given that 2, and this one is your total hours per private pay, and then TPRN and the total hours calculated, and the total patients. Actually we don't see any total patients in here, so I got that from here. Basically I'm just dividing these 2 and getting that number, and here, and this one gives you like, private pay profit, and then TPRN, and then the total profit overall. That's what it is. Now this section is where you'll be actually working on, and we'll do some what ifs as to how do we go ahead with it. So basically here you'll be giving your input, like for example, you mentioned that you wanted to have like 5 patients less in TPR, and what happens to the profit and number of hours saved and everything. So that's something that we'll be looking at as to how do we get that. Basically for none of these in here in this section you will be putting any values. It's basically the plus and minus we will be using, because we need to use macros, only then it will work. So even though the cells are editable, if you go ahead and click on by putting the numbers, they will not have any impact on this one. So my request is, it's better that you go ahead and use only the arrows up, plus or minus, and so on. So we'll start with the first scenario. You can see that almost this section is matching this section. So to start with, let's say if the doctors choose to say that I would like to go ahead and see 2 patients less this time, and how does that affect my profit? So basically in your case you'll be having only 2 patients, so you have number 8. So the loss, because the doctor chose that you'll see only 8 patients, you have a loss of 1,000. So that's the one. So obviously this is your less patient not seen, so that'll be, even though it's showing in green, that's in profit we'll have to go ahead and see. That's your main thing. And you mentioned about the break-even point and everything, so we'll see that. Right now you can see that the cell is in the green and it's in negative value, right? So what you can do is, like, let's say you wanted to go ahead and see 1 patient and see what happens to the profit and everything. So just by clicking on 1, you can see there is a break-even point which just grow up from negative to positive. So that means that if you see an additional patient of only 1, obviously that is sufficient for you to override 2 less patient, and so on. So that's, and you're also getting your profit of $50 in here. Now please remember, the break-even points can't be zeroed out. um, because your calculation for private pay and here, so there will be a positive to negative change, and you will have a little bit of higher number than zero. What do you expect out of it? So it's break even, it's not strict break even. You'll have so the break even in here for us is conceptual, which means the negative to positive number is what we need to look for. So that's that. So coming back to your question, so what if you want to go ahead and see only five thing? Okay, so let's say you want to have five thing. There is a loss of 1,400. Now what happened? How many more private pay the doctors needs to see? So if they click on just click on that, so just two and then three. So just you can see that. So if you can subtract that also, and just by chasing from one patient to the other, that's like 23. So in between this becomes like $1,000 increase. So obviously we can't see half a patient, right? So it has to be a number, a whole number. So when you click on that, you can see that there is 650 profit, and just by seeing three additional private pay patient, you are saving 4 hours by not seeing five patients as well in the TPRN. So that is the difference, obviously, is what is your saved hours, and you have extra profit. So strictly speaking, you need only 2.5 patient, and then you'll have 5 hours saving, and so on. So that is pretty much how it works. So let's revert back to the original one. You can see that I'm just reverting back to the same things for testing purposes, I'm saying. And then you can go ahead and put this to 20, and you can see everything becomes white. Now this is the first thing that you said, that you wanted to go ahead and view what to say, the patient level, number of patient level. But what if you wanted to go ahead and see the hours part of it, and the doctors say, what, I'm done with this for today, I wanted to work only for certain number of hours this time, and he chooses to go ahead and say that, what, let me go ahead and work only for 14 hours for this thing in here, and and you have 1,500 loss. And again you can see that this automatically updates your private pay part, and vice versa also. It was true, when you update this gets updated. That's why you have all your pluses, and that's why you can't go ahead and use arbitrary numbers, because that will throw errors. So you would have to use your thing. So going back to our thing, so we have a 1,500 loss. So what if you go ahead and then you say, okay, so there's a multiple of 2 hours is bare minimum here, because per patient you will have to spend at least 2 hours, right? So you take a patient or you don't. So if you click on it, it will increment by 2, and then it's just by taking it to, it's almost the same thing what we did here, but it will be done in the hours level, where you can see that just by looking at having a patient, you can save, just by not seeing three patients but seeing additional 2 patients, you get a profit of this. Strictly speaking, you can get a 2.5 or 3 hours saved, and then your profit will be 0. So that is pretty much how it works. So if your profit increases, obviously hours will be lessen, and then vice versa is also true. So you can do the same thing in here. So if you go ahead and see what it is, and suddenly if the doctor says, what, I'll have to go ahead and see more number of TPRM patients in here, I'll have to work equal amount, let's say, and he says I'll have to work for 30 hours here and there, okay, and you can see what's his loss just by doing that. Okay, obviously hours saved will be 0, because you're working the same equal hours for both, and you have a loss of $2,700 just by working equal hours, 50%. That's pretty much how we can split that. So basically it's up to them to go ahead and work extra or lessen the number of hours that they have by that much. So you can see that much, and you will have 400. But since you're working more, your hours saved will be negative, but you because you're trying to fit your loss, so obviously the hours will be more. So that's the way it is, because you're keeping your TPR number, hours the same, and you're trying to go ahead. So that is the whole reason why I had month overall hours. But I think it'll still make sense for you to have, it's not like our brains don't understand basic things. It will be able to understand, because irrespective of whoever what works at, they know, okay, so only 70 hours or 40 hours per week is all they will work, and so on. And so that is where we start from here, and then your things get updated. So let me know if this works. So that's pretty much what we are. And it gives you an overall profit in negative or positive. So when it changes from break even to the other, that gets updated. So I'll go back to your question, that what you have asked in here. Okay, so the first part, this is updated. Second thing you mentioned about in here, for example, if five TPR instead, that's done. For these two things, obviously we are doing it only for month on month basis. You'll have to capture that on month basis, then calculate it per year. Our calculator is not scheduled to have it for month on month basis, but it's free for you to have how many hours. When you put the numbers here for more than, for yearly, this will be free for yearly. So it's a calculator, it's not a trend analyzer. The trend analyzer, you'll have to go ahead and copy paste. After looking at all the calculations, you have another section, and then have a graph for that, and so on. So that's that. Ultimately, your what's your break even? As I mentioned, the break even is from negative to positive. That's your break even. It cannot be zero. Closest I've seen is 50, because that's your bare minimum increase. 0 to -2 thing is bare minimum. One patient itself that is having. So it'll come back and tell you how many patients are there, and whether it's okay for you to go ahead and see how many less patient. What if you see more patient? What happens to your revenue, and so on. And so that's pretty much where we are. And I must say that few things with regards to the bare minimum changes will have to be uh, what is it, the data integrity must be withheld. I won't say withheld. You need to take care of it. As only then it will work. For this amendment, if possible, please consider $50, because it has taken the entire day for me to get this worked out. Possibly, if you're able to consider 59 rupees, that'll be really useful. Thank you very much, and